Today we are going to talk about the billionaire and Dana Holgorsen and how he left West Virginia to end up at Houston, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today we're going to talk about Dana Holgorsen and the billionaire Tilman Fertitta, who helped lure him to the University of Houston away from West Virginia. Now, the bulk of this comes from an excellent ESPN article by Sam Kahn, who spoke with Tilman Fertitta and got into Chris Pesman, who's the University of Houston's athletic director's mind about what he wanted, why Major Applewhite was fired, and how Jake Spavital played a role. But what it came down to was West Virginia and Dana Holgorsen were at a stalemate in their negotiations, meaning that Dana wanted an extension and a raised buyout, and West Virginia ain't really into giving that kind of money to much of anybody, let alone Dana Holgorsen, who really hasn't produced a Big 12 championship, hasn't produced a really big bowl game. And yeah, Will Greer, but that was a transfer, and David Sills is not coming back, and Gary Jennings is gone. You knew that this was a bad situation, that he was going to have to basically shepherd through the next few years, and he wanted some stability from West Virginia, and they were unwilling to do it. So when that happened, and Jake Spavital gets the job at Texas State, Chris Pesman asked Spavital, do you think that perhaps Dana would be interested in the job? And this was just after Major Applewhite was fired. Famously, University of Houston president said, hey, 10-2 is winning at Houston. 8-4, we'll fire you for that. Well, I know that Major Applewhite didn't get there, but if you listen to Pesman, he says, look, we were down on ticket sales since Tom Herman left. We promoted Major Applewhite in part for continuity, and the continuity just wasn't there, and people aren't inspired by University of Houston Cougar football, and we want to bring that back. But what would it take? It would take a lot of money. So the buyout went down, yes, on January 1st, but also Tilman Fertitta is worth $1 billion over. He owns the Houston Rockets. He is the cousin of the Fertitta brothers, who basically are the reason that the UFC exists at all. I know Dana White gets all of the credit, but if you follow Fight Game, like I follow the Fight Game, you know all about the Fertittas, and what the Fertittas do usually turns to gold. So Tilman Fertitta is a friend of Dana Holgorsen's, and those two guys got to rapping, and that's how it happened. Look, when you got this kind of money, money's not really an object. So when you get into Dana Holgorsen's contract and how it dwarfs any other contract that is in the group of five, let alone the American, he's going to make over $4 million a year annually over the length of his deal. And you look at the pool for his support staff, that's like $4.5 million, which also dwarfs anything else in the American. You can see that they wanted to pull out all the stops to get Dana Holgorsen back to Houston. And Houston also allows that fella to do something that he doesn't really get to do in Morgantown. Blend in. J.J. Watt is there. James Harden is there. The Texans. Deshaun Watson is there. The Fertitta brothers are there. These are all things that you don't necessarily get at Morgantown, and apparently Dana Holgorsen wanted to blend in a little bit more. He wanted to have his life back a little bit more, and we all know about the recruiting advantage you have in not just the state of Texas, but the city of Houston. So that makes all the sense in the world to me. Now, what I'm really interested to see is how all of this translates for Houston in the football hemisphere, because I think Dana Holgorsen also knows what I know, which is that if you can go to a place like UCF and you can go from winless to 25 straight, then yeah, maybe the competition is there, something you can run. Maybe you could be the darling of college football, for which we're having these stupid arguments about a group of 5 team being in a 4-team playoff because they played an undefeated schedule. Now, talking about Dana Holgorsen, he looks at a guy like Josh Heupel's like, nah, I can run laps around that dude. And he probably can. No disrespect to Josh Heupel, but Josh Heupel just ain't that kind of inspiring figure. He's an X's and O's football guy, and he's good at it. But when you're looking at Dana Holgorsen, you're also looking about a guy who knows from branding. The first picture he took with the University of Houston visor on had a Red Bull in his hand in the picture. He autographed the Red Bull. The dude gets it. I don't know how Red Bull doesn't have a sponsorship for Dana Holgorsen at this point, honestly. But he is on brand. And I don't know that that's what Josh Heupel does at UCF. I think Danny White does all of that for him, and I think Danny White enjoys it, which is why, he'll send that email exchange and then tip off a guy at the Orlando Sentinel to say, hey, maybe you want to open records this because I tried to get Florida to get this home with us, and they said no. So I think that Josh Heupel's in a good position, but I also think that Dana Holgorsen is positioned to run the American and Group of 5 in general and have Houston on the cusp of being the kind of team that it was when Tom Herman was there. because you can recruit guys like Ed Oliver, and you can get guys to come like De'Aaron King, and you're Dana Holgorsen. You know from offensive play calling, you know from putting outstanding spread offenses on the field, and you know from Hal Mummy's system. And now you get an opportunity to make a splash on August 31st against Oklahoma, right? That's the first game on the schedule for both of those teams. So Oklahoma is going to be with a new starting quarterback, regardless of whether or not it's Austin Kendall, right? And you also really have an opportunity to make Tilman Fertitta look like a genius, which is, what all billionaires want to be known as. Even the ones that own professional sports franchises and made their money doing something other than sports, they would love to be known as sports geniuses because egos and egomaniacal guys usually go hand in hand with billionaires. I don't know any shy billionaires, do you? And I think that Fertitta looks at himself the way that Boone Pickens looks at himself at Oklahoma State, the way that Joe Jamil looks at himself at the University of Texas. So all of this could be for the good for the University of Houston, and I still think that Dana Holgorsen was running from the Big 12. I don't think that he really wanted to compete with Oklahoma and, for that matter, Texas in the years to come, because recruiting to West Virginia is hard. It's a tough job. It's almost as tough as Kansas State. It ain't, but it's almost there. You get where I'm going with that. So I think that this was best for Dana Holgorsen, even though I don't necessarily agree with it, because signing a recruiting class for which you said you were going to coach and then leaving them in the lurch is part and parcel of college football today. I still don't like it because kids don't have an opportunity to play right away if they transfer. I think every one of these kids should be able to have a waiver and go wherever they want and be eligible to play next year, and some of them will, and some of them do. But the fact that there's a middleman saying what you can and can't do as a player, and not one saying what you can and can't do as a coach when you talk about taking a new job, I find that stupid and somewhat farcical. I know that I'm probably in the minority on that, but I found this really interesting, and I'm excited to see what kind of team Dana Holgorsen feels when he takes on Oklahoma on August 31st this year. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.